So the Caliph Harun al-Rashid, may God have mercy on him, heard that there was a man from the tribe of Banu Umayyad residing in the city of Damascus who had immense wealth. He owned vast tracts of land and farms that produced abundant crops. He commanded large armies and cavalry forces ready at his disposal, and this man had great influence over people. So he could raise rebellions and pose a significant threat to the security of the Abbasid Caliphate. At that time, al-Rashid was in Kufa and sent his servant, a freed slave named Mudara, who was known for his bravery and strength, accompanied by 100 guards. He gave them a sealed letter to be delivered to the governor of Damascus. The contents of the letter were not to be revealed until they arrived at their destination. Al-Rashid instructed Mudara, "Bring me this man to me in Kufa. If he submits to my authority without resistance, shackle him swiftly and secretly, and I shall deal with him as I see fit. If he refuses and puts up a fight, deliver this letter to the governor and follow his instructions." Upon receiving the letter, Mudara set out on his journey with his guards, traveling day and night, stopping only for the obligatory prayers or urgent necessities, until they reached Damascus on the 7th night. At dawn, without any prior announcement, Mudara and his men stormed the house of the mighty Umayyad. It was a magnificent palace filled with numerous servants and bodyguards. No one could enter or exit without the permission of the owner. When they arrived, many were surprised to see Mudara leading the charge. He was a well-known figure due to his service to Harun al-Rashid. The guards at the door inquired about his purpose, and Mudara proudly declared, "I am the messenger of the commander of the faithful, Harun al-Rashid." They immediately recognized his significance and opened the doors wide, ushering him and his companions inside. They guided Mudara and his men to the center of the palace, where he was received with great honor and seated in a place of importance. Soon, the Umayyad himself appeared. He had just emerged from his bath and was surrounded by elders, youths, and attendants. Upon seeing Mudara, he greeted him warmly and asked about the well-being of the Caliph. He praised God for his continued health and expressed his happiness that the Caliph had sent someone to visit him. The Umayyad offered Mudara and his companions exquisite fruits and insisted that they refresh themselves. However, Mudara declined, explaining that he had fasted in preparation for a ritual bath he would perform after delivering his message. The Umayyad respected his decision, and the meal proceeded with pleasant conversation. When the appointed time for the afternoon prayer, Dur, approached, the Umayyad stood up, performed his ablution, and led the gathered individuals, including Mudara and his companions, to the prayer area. They all prayed together in congregation. After the prayer, the Umayyad returned to Mudara, who reminded him of his duty to deliver al-Rashid's letter. The Umayyad eagerly accepted the letter, kissed it, placed it on his head, and then read it. His face darkened as he learned of his impending transfer to Kufa. He called for his family members and those close to him, declaring, "By the oaths of pilgrimage, charity, and divorce, none of you shall disperse until we resolve this matter." He then lay down, stretched his legs, and told Mudara, "Tie me up." The blacksmith did as instructed, and when the Umayyad felt the tightness of the shackles, he said, "These are the bonds of obedience to the commander of the faithful. May God be pleased with him." The Umayyad then gave orders to distribute food and drink among the people so they wouldn't complain of hunger or thirst. Mudara spent the night in the Umayyad's courtyard, constantly hearing the sounds of people coming and going until dawn. In the morning, the Umayyad summoned him and said, "You may now take me with you. Lead the way." The journey from Damascus to Kufa took 13 days. During this time, the Umayyad confidently described each of his estates along the way, highlighting the abundance of rare fruits they yielded yearly, as well as the endless harvests from his farms. He pointed out vast pastures with herds of livestock grazing there, as well as his properties filled with valuable objects and treasures. Mudara noticed that the Umayyad didn't seem concerned or fearful about his fate. This puzzled him because the Caliph's intentions towards the Umayyad were far from honorable. Modera finally decided to confront the Umayyad directly, saying, "Do you not realize that the Caliph fears your power? If he manages to get his hands on you, he won't hesitate to throw you into prison." The Umayyad calmly replied, "I put my trust in God, who has control over both my destiny and the Caliph's destiny. If God wills for me to come to harm, no one can stop it, whether the Caliph or anyone else. If God does not will it, then even if the Caliph and all the people of earth unite against me, they won't be able to harm me without God's permission." After that, the Umayyad immersed himself in reciting the Quran. When they reached the appointed spot where Modera was to hand over the Umayyad to al-Rashid's men, scouts immediately came out to meet them. Then Modera entered al-Rashid's court. Al-Rashid was curious and asked his men to step aside, allowing him to question Modera alone. He inquired about what had transpired, especially about the Umayyad's reaction upon learning of his fate. Modera began by describing how he had delivered al-Rashid's letter to the Umayyad, who had listened patiently. He then mentioned the Umayyad's oath to his household and his calm acceptance of his fate. Modera continued, narrating the Umayyad's trust in God, emphasizing that the Umayyad believed that if it was written in his destiny to be harmed, no one could stop it. If not, then even if the Caliph and everyone else wanted to harm him, they couldn't do anything to him. Modera also highlighted the fact that the Umayyad spent the entire journey from Damascus to Kufa reciting the Quran. As Modera finished his report, al-Rashid's initial anger had vanished, replaced by admiration for the Umayyad's steadfastness and reliance on God. He realized that despite the Umayyad's immense wealth, power, and influence, he was ready to relinquish it all for the sake of his faith. Impressed by this display of piety, al-Rashid gave the order to release the Umayyad from his shackles, honor him, and bring him before him. When the Umayyad entered, he fell to his knees, kissing the ground in submission. Al-Rashid welcomed him, apologized for his previous attitude, and granted his request to return home. Before the Umayyad departed, the Caliph addressed Modera, saying, "Take note of his trust in God. Verily, whoever relies on God alone is sufficient. Whoever calls on God, God responds to him. And whoever asks God, God grants his request." And that's the end of this story from the book, The Merits of Perseverance in Islam. We hope you enjoyed this story and learned something valuable from it. Please remember to share your feedback, support the channel, and stay tuned for more content. Thanks for watching.